All right, everyone. MTL Sports Podcast. On episode 103, I believe. We are back. We're back. 2 weeks? We've been gone 2 weeks. I think I did a little free agency video about a week and a half ago. But we're back. We're going to cover what happened during these past 2 weeks, mostly free agency, a lot of signings, some trades, some big, some small. 6-team trade, first time ever in NBA history happened as well. So we'll cover all those, and we'll give you our biggest winners and losers of this free agency period. Still kind of going on, but most of the noise has died. So, for all that being said, guys, stay tuned. Going over free agency. Started July 1st. July 1st was quiet, though. I guess because some of the new rules, the anti-tampering rules that were in place. Was it last year or was it this year that they became official? But I think the penalties for tampering are more in line with what they should be. So I think teams are losing second and potentially first round picks nowadays. So we really didn't see any signings the first, but the second we saw a bunch. So let's just go over some of the big ones. Let's pull it on up. All right. So starting
where do you want to
some of these big ones. I think we should start with some of the big ones. Obviously, the biggest one is Paul George agreed to go to Philly for the 4-year max. The Clippers just, said, hey, we're not going to give you the max. Just go off and go do your thing in Philly. They refused to trade with Golden State, even though Golden State apparently was going to give them multiple picks, potentially Kuminga and Wiggins, and they didn't want any of that. So, Lawrence, how you feel about PG going to Philly? They re-signed Tyrese Maxey as well. How do you feel about the signing, and how does Philly look, I guess, going forward?
So I think Philly looks awesome because of it. If he stays healthy, we're just going to put that big if out there because it is PG, and he does tend to get a little banged up like Embiid does. However, I would like to put it out there that one of the biggest problems for the past few years has been they're a good team, and they're kind of as good as Tobias Harris was because you know what you get with Embiid, and what's his face, the guy who just got re-signed, constantly kept improving, Maxey, constantly kept improving, but it was always the fact that Tobias Harris just always seemed to not be there when it really needed him to. I think that's something that PG is going to provide. He's constantly going to be a very effective presence in the postseason if he can stay healthy for it. And I think PG's on a team in which, he doesn't have to play every single night, to get his team to the playoffs with a good seeding. Not saying that he had to with the Clippers, but with him and Leonard being hurt, it was kind of important that they had to play even when injured to get good seeding. So, honestly, I look at this, and you see the odds change based on PG going to the 76ers. And I think the odds makers were really trying to tell everyone, hey, don't be sleeping on this pick. There's a reason why the Clippers pushed back multiple draft picks from the Warriors to send them to the East just so they don't have to mess with them. Just because they don't want to deal with that. Because if I trade them to the Warriors, I got to play that so many times, and who knows? I might make it to the playoffs, and then he bounced us. I don't want that either. So I think it was a smart move to move him to the East. It's like his old Indiana days. He kind of deserves to be in the East. He was a king back in the day when he was on the East, or in the East with the Pacers. So I think it's a good move for all parties, except probably the Warriors. Warriors are the only ones who lost out. The only party who was involved that didn't get anything they wanted.
Yeah, you can see looking at the odds right now, the second best odds to win in the East, just slightly ahead of the Knicks, who made the big trade for Mikal Bridges, and the defending champ Celtics, and then they're tied for third overall in odds with the Nuggets. So definitely that sign definitely put them over the top. They also, jumping a little bit ahead, they also signed Caleb Martin. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. They took our guy from the Heat, but it's all good. He fumbled the bag a little bit. They re-signed Kelly Oubre for another 2-year deal, and I think they signed Big Drummond to be the backup center. So he's going back to Philly. So they're filling out the roster still. So I mean, the team looks pretty good so far. So well deserving of the odds. But let's go back to the Clippers. So they lose PG, but then they replaced him with Derrick Jones Jr. Lawrence, how do you feel about this? He had a pretty good playoff run until the finals, when basically the whole team besides Luka didn't really play well. Does this make the Clippers at least worthy to play in? Do you think? Because this is pretty much the only move they made.
I mean, I think there'll be more moves to come. I think they're just sitting on some things a little bit. However,
Mm-hmm.
with a healthy roster, I think the Clippers can make the playoffs through the play-in, like you said. Now, do I think they can make it to the playoffs through the play-in? That's a different question. Can they be effective throughout the whole season? I mean, you're pretty much as effective as Kawhi Leonard can carry you to be. But you got to look at it another light. Like, look at that Raptors team that made that finals run.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of Leonard, I guess you had Kyle Lowry,
Siakam.
you had Siakam, and you had Fred VanVleet. But I
Yeah.
mean, Siakam wasn't Siakam yet. He was getting there, but he wasn't quite him yet. Now he did find
Yeah.
him. He did find his graces during that postseason run, and I kind of have a feeling that the Clippers might rekindle fire with a little bit of a run by him. Who knows? You don't know this early yet because you don't know. Maybe Paul George was taking a spot on the bench or taking a spot away from a guy on the bench who has a chance to now break out. Like, I don't know if Bones Highland is still on the team, but I mean, that's one guy that comes to mind. Never got used, never really met the full potential he could be because of that.
Yeah, that's true. Terrence Mann as well. Another young guy who they refuse to trade many a time. So maybe one of those young guys will step into the starting role and kind of help out where PG left. But uh, to another finals contender, the Thunder, they made some big signings. They signed their reserve guys, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, to some new deals. But they also signed Big Hartenstein from the Knicks. The Knicks, after they made that trade, they couldn't really afford to keep, the whole team intact. They got to cut their losses somewhere. So, Hartenstein was the odd man out, but he did get a 3-year, $87 million deal. The Thunder did have cap space to spend, so I think it's a smart move. They really do need a big body center. Hartenstein, when healthy, he's a double-double machine, basically. So, Lawrence, how do you feel about this? These signings, Hartenstein, some of your key rotation pieces, plus Alex Caruso getting traded there. How does the Thunder free agency look out to you?
See, I think the Thunder did a good job, and you see these teams and they make this like postseason run, and they just say, "Okay, let's just keep the team the way it is and try to do it again." But then
Yeah.
everyone kind of figures you out the next season. I got a whole year of film. I kind of feeling you out. I kind of understand how to beat you now. Well, now they just push back that they just push that back. So now teams are gonna have to study them
Yeah.
again this coming season because they've made changes. And then I guess on number two, on top of that, they made the key changes that we have been saying, which means other people have been saying. Like, we need a big so Chet doesn't have to fight bigs. Like, let's just be real. You need a big so Chet doesn't have to fight bigs. Um, that was his kryptonite. He is a smaller, more modern big Now,
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
say more modern big, there's a reason why they're called more modern big. It's the entire league has not shifted to this brand of basketball yet. There's still bigs out there that are just too strong and mighty for him. He just can't beat up, you know. Now, can he shoot threes and move faster and block their shots? By all means, so can Wimby. Wimby just kind of does it at a more effective rate. Doesn't
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
shame to Chet. You still provide a good service for your team and what you do. So, but I just think the signings, like, yeah, there was multiple times last year where like you could tell if Giddy wasn't there and there was a more defensive minded, faster pace, it could work a little better. It would be a little bit more fluid. You could also see him the
Mhm.
same way. Chet doesn't even play in the big role. So what did they do? They got rid of the guy who was kind of iffy. He kind of works, but we could do better. And we got the guy that we need. What a big. So I think they did everything they were supposed to correctly the right way.
Yeah, they kept the draft picks that they treasured. They still got a bunch of draft picks. They drafted the Nikola Topic guy who he's gonna be out for a year, but that's another gem you can stash for a little bit and he'll come out next year. But they did what we said they had to do. Get the big. They had basically a 1 year window to maximize his cap space before you start paying Chat. You gotta start paying J Dub, and then you gotta pay SGA again. So you're doing all of this, in your 1 year window. I would say they spent the cap space pretty good. Then we just gotta see them out there on the court.
I
But I think these are.
also think the fact that they didn't give up their draft picks, right?
Mhm.
There's a complete opportunity for this team to make a mid-season trade at the trade deadline. In case of an injury, you're on a 1 year deal. Like this is your 1 year to like break out and move. Someone gets an injury. Okay, we got draft pieces to make a trade. Um, we can pick up a guy that we need. There's multiple things you can do, and I think that was really effective the way they did it.
Couldn't agree more. Some other smaller signings. Tobias Harris, of course, left Philly. It's going back to Detroit. Chasing the bag. Detroit has to spend the money somewhere, so I guess why not give it back to him again? Um, Derek White, of course, re-signed with the Celtics. He was up. Um, Luka Garza going back to Minnesota. DeLon Wright leaves Miami, goes to the Bucks, be their backup point guard. Probably the second biggest signing though of the offseason a signing trade with the Warriors in this big 16 trade. Klay goes to the Mavericks, 3 years, $50 million. Turned down reportedly, I think it was like 4 years, 80 million plus from the Lakers. LeBron said he was going to take significantly less money if Klay were to join the Lakers. I think as much as like a $30 million pay cut. So Klay just decides not to play for the Lakers. His dad's old team. He wants to play with Luka. They just came out the finals run. Lawrence, do you think Klay made the right decision? And if so, how much better will the Dallas be next year? Because they lost Derrick Jones Jr., but arguably you replace him with the second best shooter of all time. So I guess it just depends on how you look at it.
I think the move is really. I guess you could look at it two ways. Like the move for Clay works out in two ways. I mean, on the Lakers, I feel like he's going to be asked to do more in terms of
Yeah.
scoring, in terms of uh, a defensive presence. He probably plays more minutes. I think all these factors came into play. I think the biggest thing that the Lakers is, though, like you just said before, that's where his father played. So it's one of those things like I don't want to be in the shadow of my parent. Kind of
Yeah.
the same way, I mean, Bronny is fully in it now. I mean, he just got picked up by the Lakers. If he sucks, it's going to look real bad on him. Uh, but for Clay, you're in the twilight of your career in terms like he's had some injuries recently. He didn't look that great last year. You probably want big, explosive pieces to carry the weight for you that you don't have to. you kind of have a good point guard who depends on which way you look at it. Kyrie can be your point guard. Luka can be your point guard. Both of them are very effective passers in their own right, which will allow him to get open and just shoot threes. He'll be asked to play some manageable defense. I just think the Mavs provide, I guess, the cleanest way for him to get to the title again, which is obviously why he took it. And, I mean, let's be real. This isn't the Klay Thompson that we grew up with. He's a little older now.
Yeah, he's older. Doesn't play defense quite the same intensity. Had an off year, but an off year for him was what? Basically 20 points on 39% shooting from three, which is a lot of guys' career years. So, yes, a little sad that he's not the Klay of old, but he's still a damn good NBA player. Definitely, he's worth starter money. He's definitely still a starter, but just however Steve Kerr wanted to use him in that system, he just wasn't going to start, which I think really hurt his feelings, hurt his pride. So makes sense that, his decade plus of being on the Golden State team had to come to an end. I don't blame him for not joining the Lakers. Even if you did join Klay, the Lakers at best are probably still the fourth or fifth best team in the West. And then, like you said, Lawrence, he's still gonna be asked to do so much. He's gonna start, and then they're still gonna ask him to guard the best defender, the best offensive player probably, because who else is gonna do it, right? Austin Reeves can't do it. D'Lo can't do it. LeBron can't do it at his old age, and Anthony Davis is only gonna do it, when they switch up the pick and roll. So it was gonna be a good fit, not a great fit. And I think in Dallas, we got two of the best scorers in the NBA right now. He's gonna get a bunch of wide open threes. All you gotta do is knock down 40% of them, and that's all I need you to do, bro. And you're gonna start. Who cares about the money? You already made your money. Let's just get another ring or two, and then retire. That's all. If you're Klay, that's all you gotta think about, really.
Yeah, I think that was his biggest thing is the place to go where he can retire, live easy, and he's been destroyed by California tax for a long period of time. It probably feels really nice and good to get Texas state tax.
No income state tax in Texas.
Exactly.
So I guess the money comes out to be very similar. But I think LA's was still a little bit better. But when you make so much money, bro, that stuff doesn't even matter. So back to the Warriors. Since they lost Klay, they signed Anthony Melton. And then moving ahead, I think a couple of days ago, they did a sign and trade with the Sixers for Buddy Hield. So Buddy Hield basically took what Klay Thompson would have taken in a 2-year deal with the Warriors. So they kind of made up for it. Lawrence, how you feel about what they've done so far, the Warriors? And reportedly they're really aggressive in trying to get Lauri Markkanen. If they pull that trade off, how would they look in the Western Conference?
Well, I think the Markkanen trade is really big. If you can get Markkanen, the Markkanen one is almost a near direct plug and play to Klay.
Yeah,
it's gonna do the same thing. Maybe at less of a high level as Klay, like in more of a, I don't want to say intelligent level, but more of a younger, youthful, still very effective in the league. But I think at the current moment, I think what they've done is plug and place, kind of like Moneyball. You ever seen the movie Moneyball?
Yeah.
So we can't replace Klay straight up, person to person. So what we have to do is we have to make up for what Klay does using multiple people. So obviously, Buddy Hield for the 3-point shooting, Anthony Melton for the tenacious defense and passing ability. Also allows Steph Curry to get a little bit of break in terms of being the facilitator. So I think they're looking at it that way. So if we can't land Markkanen, we gotta replace Klay using pieces instead of one big block.
Yeah, I agree. This is probably the best case scenario for them. Get Buddy Hield, replace the 3-point shooting, like you said. Melton be a backup point guard. Plus, he's a 3-and-D guy. Played well in Philly. Just got the injury bug later in the season. So all in all, great signing. And like you said, the marketing signing will take him over the top. I say if they pull that off, they'll be in that top 4 in the West for sure. Because marketing is a game changer. He's basically a stretch 4, stretch 5,
Stretch
but
4, yeah.
Yeah, about stretch 4, which you need size in the West, and the Warriors don't have much size right now, so that would help them immensely. But we gotta see if they actually um, make this trade happen. Probably the third biggest thing, Donovan Mitchell. We speculated all year round. We said he's probably gonna leave. He's probably gonna leave. Team's gonna be calling. Everyone's gonna be lining up to get this guy. And he stayed in Cleveland. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And it was kind of crazy because it took him so long. It wasn't just like an immediate thing. Like as soon as he was eligible, he didn't sign the extension. He didn't sign it last offseason when it was first, put on the table. So I honestly didn't think it was going to happen, Lawrence, but he signed it. Where does this put the Cavs? They got their star back. Darius Garland reportedly he wants out if Mitchell resign. I've seen some reports that said that he's kind of refuted that. They're saying that even Jared Allen may not be traded because the new coach Kenny Atkinson wants to see what he can do with that. So how are you feeling about the Cavs? Are they going to be in the same spot as they were the past 2 years, or are they going to try and switch things up even further?
I think the Cavs got to make moves because I think you're at the point in time where you've been the same team for so long. Everyone knows how to play you. Um, they make a lot of film to study about you, and yeah, it's gonna at this point it's kind of hard to fix the inabilities of certain players. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, just Jarrett Allen and Mobley on the field or on the court together. I mean, we've seen it. It works in stretches. It works against certain teams, but in the matter of like needing buckets, both of them on the field,
yeah,
that doesn't work. Doesn't work.
yeah. I agree. Someone needs to go, and I think it's going to have to be Garland, even though he's trying to push back against getting traded, probably because there's probably not a big trade market out there for him. I think you probably got to get up out there, bro. You were an all-star before Donovan Mitchell got there. Now every single year he's been there, you kind of just been forgotten about. Your numbers have been kind of down. You don't really shine unless Donovan Mitchell's hurt. So I'm not saying he should be selfish, but just looking at the fit wise, I don't think it works. Like I said, the Twin Towers damn sure don't work because neither one of them shoot threes.
Nope.
So the spacing is just not there. So like you said, it works for some teams. Most teams though, it doesn't work. So I
But
think you got to split that up.
I think what Garland does good though is driving into the paint and making a basket when needed. And when you have
Yeah,
twin towers down there that are just taking too much space up, I think it also hurts Garland's game as well. So, in my opinion, I think Garland should be saying, "Yeah, I want out of here because what y'all are building is not to my asset, like what I bring to the table." He needs to be on a team and with a stretch big, someone who's gonna move around the court, take the big man out of the paint, and let him just drive in there on a smaller point guard or a slower shooting guard, and just make 10 buckets every night that way with a stretch big helping
yeah,
you out. But you can't get that where he is. You just can't. So you have to work
yeah,
extra hard for his baskets, and then unfortunately, some nights he goes cold, and he can't help that either because if a team is going to play your team the correct way, you know exactly how to nullify each person on the team just because of inefficiencies in different spots.
yeah. Couldn't agree more. Some other signings. Mo Wagner returns to the Magic, 2-year deal. His brother, Franz, I think got the rookie max, eligible for the rookie super max if he makes the All NBA team. Um, Lawrence, how do you feel about the Magic signing? Now they were in the race for Paul George for a little bit, but they went ahead and once it was official that he wasn't going to return back to the Clippers, the Magic said, let's just pay KCP. So they got KCP on like a 2 or 3 year deal, re-signed Mo Wagner, and re-signed Franz Wagner. So how do we feel about the Magic now, Lawrence? They needed to spend their cap space. I believe they spent it pretty well. Now, I still think they need a scorer, but how do you feel about their offseason so far?
I think their offseason is fine because you got to get rid of the money. You can't keep the money. However, the biggest point you just made right there is they need a scorer. KCP does not add to the scoring. He adds to the 3 game a little bit, but he did
As
not.
to the defense, the defense is already there.
But the defense is there. Like the Magic don't need defense. What they need is someone to make a basket outside of Paulo. But let's face it, like, okay, the other team's just like, okay, we'll let Pancaro score, but who else is going to do it for you? Because we're just going to double team and switch off and make sure Wagner's day is hard. Where else does the points come from? And you can honestly look at this team right now and say, well, where does the points come from? And I will call you a liar if you tell me there's someone else on that team that can score points. There's just not. At the end of the day, there's just not anyone else that can score points.
Yeah, I think maybe they think they can develop that internally. Maybe they think Franz can be their second 20 points per game guy. I don't think so. Maybe they're thinking, ahead to the trade deadline. Maybe they might make a trade for some disgruntled guy who wants to get out of their contract around February. We'll have to see, but as of right now, I think they're probably still in the same spot. To get them over the hump into that contender category, they definitely needed a score. Well, they just didn't do that here.
Well, Garland's available.
He might be available. We'll see what the price is, but that would be a good one.
I mean, it helps Garland's game out because Paulo could move out to the 3 game. Does he shoot him at an effective clip? No, but he seems like he's a really coachable and teachable guy who can learn how to shoot a 3 to allow Garland to move in the paint. But also, I mean, Paulo's just small enough where he can move around and allow him to get paint room. So
this is true. Moving on, some other small signings. Damian Lee going back to the Suns. Joe Ingles leaves the Magic, goes to Timberwolves. Alec Burks signs with Miami, played with the Knicks the back half of last year after he got traded there. I think he started the year with Detroit. I think Miami also re-signed K Love for 2 years. They today just re-signed Haywood Highsmith. They lost Caleb Martin. I think that's all the moves the Heat did. The Heat offseason, y'all, and I'll do a separate video on this probably, but it's just been awful. Like Lawrence has said, you can't run it back and expect better. You always got to think to improve. And for the past 2 years, old man Pat just has not thought to improve. He's just, for whatever reason, still thinks that some star is just going to randomly drop in his lap, which it kind of did for Dame, but, the Trailblazers didn't want to do business with Miami for whatever reason. So he just thinks that some team is just going to hand over a star. That's not the case anymore, Pat. You got to have assets. And as of right now, we got one tradable first-round pick and barely any guys that any other team wants. So Miami's in a bad spot, guys. Lawrence, how you feel about Miami's offseason so far?
I think you have valuable guys. Like I think guys that you don't want to get rid of are valuable. Like Hot Guy is definitely very, very enticing to a lot of teams for what he can bring.
Yeah, but he's just I would say him and probably Jovic. No one else. They don't want anybody else. Maybe Jimmy, but that's probably it.
I mean, they probably want
Jimmy
Bam, but you can't get rid of Bam. Bam is what you're now building around, what you should build around. Yeah. If you were to do a little bit of a more youth movement, but I mean, I think you outstayed your welcome with the Hero trade. I think everyone realizes now Hero literally can make the same amount of points if he comes off the bench. than as he can start.
Yeah.
So unless a team is looking for an extremely good sixth man, and if they do get your extremely good sixth man, what are they going to give you for it? And probably not a whole lot because it's a sixth man. So then you got to look around. What can I trade? What can I do to get pieces? Um, Again, a little unfortunate. There isn't really much you can do. Uh,
You can't. And Jimmy has come out and said that if you don't give me the extension, he's going to play out his last year. He's going to decline the player option, and he will become a free agent after next season's over. So we'll talk about this probably a little bit later on. But this is seeming like we're heading towards the last year of Jimmy, and like you said, the youth movement will start, but we just don't have enough assets to kind of expedite that process, if that makes sense.
yeah, there's just nothing that anyone will, you know, make you a fair trade for. That's the only issue for you.
Yep. True there. Moving on, guys. We already went over Buddy Hield. Probably the last big domino to fall. DeMar DeRozan, 3-team trade. I think was it yesterday? He got traded to the Kings. The Spurs had to offload a contract, so they offloaded Devontae Graham to the Hornets to free up some room. And then they accepted I think they got back Harrison Barnes, and then I think the Bulls just got back like a second round pick or two. So, Lawrence, how do you feel about the Kings now that they have their new big three? With Fox, Sabonis, and DeRozan. They traded, Barnes' defense for DeMar's offense. How do you feel about that?
Well, let's be realistic. Barnes' defense wasn't anything amazing because they're still one of the worst teams defensively in the league. So if we're
Yeah.
gonna put that out there, I'm okay with it. I think the only inability of the Kings at the current moment is honestly the effectiveness at the 3-point shot that they're gonna have outside of Murray. Um, Keegan Murray can shoot the three really good, but after this postseason, everyone knows that Keegan Murray can shoot the three really good. So now everyone's watching for that. I mean, we already know in the past, but we did not know he had it like that in terms of a postseason 3-point showing. So I think De'Aaron Fox has proven over the years he loves to drive the paint. DeMar DeRozan's mid-range game is pretty much unmatched by most guys around the league. And I think that's
Yep.
where you're gonna have to figure it out. It's like, how are we gonna stretch the field enough that people? It was like the George Mason. Remember George Mason like 2 or 3 years ago, where we'd go to their games and it's like, dude, all you're doing is driving the paint. You got to do
Yeah.
something else other than drive the paint. The Kings look like they
It's-
might be a team that drives the paint a little too much this season. If Herter doesn't come back and kind of play like he did playoff Herter to get that money, then I think it was a waste. And that's the only fear that you can have with the Kings at the moment, because everything else they're doing is right. It's just, can they be effective with the line that they're pulling out? Because
yeah.
you got rid of Mitchell too. I mean, it's a trade that you haven't
Yeah.
seen yet. Davion Mitchell's gone too, so like you're really, really killing the defensive side of the ball here.
Yeah. They I think they drafted a guy that plays. I think they drafted Devin Carter. He basically plays the same spot that Davion Mitchell would play. So they had to get him up out of there. I guess they didn't really believe in him after 2-3 years. So they got some new kid to come in and maybe they'll develop him a little bit better. But yeah, the spacing thing I have to figure out. Maybe Fox becomes more of a catch and shoot guy. I know he loves to drive, like you said, drive to the basket. But maybe you just gotta put the ball in DeMar's hand. You make him like kind of a point forward. Have him and Fox alternate. Possessing the ball, and Fox just might have to sit in the corner for a couple of possessions so that DeMar can get to work, um, and get the defense to collapse on him. It seems like an awkward fit, but I'm thinking if anyone can figure it out, Mike Brown can. Um, but Sabonis, unless he really focused on like his jump shot It probably won't work out in the end because that's probably the biggest thing is Sabonis can't really shoot. But if Sabonis can get a reliable jumper, then I feel like this was probably worth it.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of things that we were going to agree on today. These movements around the league.
Yeah. Looking at some of these trades now, ESPN gave some grades. Um, let's see here. I think we covered most of the signings. Oh, what we didn't cover, the Hawks. Now the Hawks apparently had both of their stars on the trade market. Only one got moved so far. DeJounte Murray got sent to the Pelicans, and the Hawks got back Larry Nance. Basically, 2 first-round picks. They paid 3 picks to get Murray, so they got back 2 of their 3. Lawrence, how do we feel about, I guess, both sides? Like, how do you feel about the Pelicans now? Going forward, they're still trying to trade Brandon Ingram. We'll see what happens. And then how do you feel about the Hawks? They might not still be trading Trae Young. And the Spurs are in a pretty good position because the Spurs have the Hawks' first-round pick for the next 2 years. And it looks like the Hawks are going to tank. So does Trae Young go to the Spurs eventually before the trade deadline because they want their pick back and they already know they're going to be bad? Like, how do you think the Hawks are feeling right now?
The Hawks are in disarray because they don't know what the hell they're doing and what's going on. They're just grasping at air and hoping they get an air bubble underwater because that's how quickly they're sinking.
Yeah.
Their season's over before the season started. They have no real, talent they picked up in the draft. That's like, oh yeah, this could do some things. Like they don't have anything. I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard to even talk about the Hawks unless you're living in Atlanta because there's nothing there to talk about for that team. So I mean, to be honest, it's kind of hard to answer your question because I mean, I don't even know how I'm supposed to attach to this Hawks team in terms of what you can do, what you should do, because they don't have a clue. They don't know what direction they're in. Yeah, like I said, they're just in complete free fall.
How you feel about the Pelicans? They got Murray, so they got an actual point guard now. CJ can move to the 2, but you're still trying to trade Ingram, so we don't know how this situation is fully gonna resolve.
I mean, the Pelicans. Don't get me wrong. I feel like the Pelicans were. I mean, regardless of getting Murray or not, I still think they were going to be in the playoffs. I think they would have done better than the play-in this year, even if they just kept their roster.
Yeah.
Because they're always hurt. But the Pelicans' biggest thing is not anything they're going to pick up. It's all about Zion. You got to get that man to stay healthy for a whole season. That is your biggest Achilles heel. And until that is completely figured out, whether it's you literally have to get this man a massage therapist at all times after the games or something, but yeah, he can't stay injured the whole season. Sneak into the playoffs, do an amazing first game, and then just say, "Oh man, I hurt myself again." And that's just been the team the whole last 3 years.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, I agree. We'll see what happens to Ingram. I feel like he probably does get moved. They lost Big Val. Big Val went to the Wizards. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I agree with ESPN. I give it a B plus. They didn't give up their own picks. They kind of sent out the picks. The Lakers pick and whatever between Milwaukee and I guess the 2027 New Orleans pick. So we'll see how that goes. But the Hawks, yeah, you only got back basically Larry Nance and a couple picks, but they're not going to be good picks. They're pretty mid picks, honestly. And that Zachariah kid that you picked number 1 overall, he just seems like he's going to take a while to kind of blossom. If he does blossom, he's not going to be a Wemby type that just go get you 20 and 10 the first year. I don't foresee that happening. So yeah, the Hawks, they don't have to figure this thing out. And it seems like the Trae Young market isn't really there. I think even the Spurs didn't have interest in trading for him. Maybe that's because they already got Chris Paul. Maybe it's because Wemby doesn't want Trae Young on his team. I don't know, but it's kind of sad that Trae Young doesn't have a market. Because if I was a team, if I had a good enough defense around me, I probably would trade for Trae Young. You don't need him to play defense, but you damn sure need that 25 and 10. That's just my 2 cents.
That 25 and 10 is fun. And I think Trae Young is built for a team like the Spurs. I mean, they're long and tall and hard to they're hard to like fight against.
Yeah.
Getting into that paint, and I think they make up for the weaknesses of Trae. So I mean that is the team that Trae needs. So it's just sad that they don't want to make that move. It's honestly just sad that they've allowed Trae to get to this point. I mean, you could have just been building around him for what he needs the whole time. Um, Instead, they didn't opt for that, and for whatever reason, at the end of the day, you just gotta say it is what it is. But Trae Young definitely deserves better. Um, Dang, Trae Young could just get to LeBron and LeBron's AD and um, LeBron and AD. I mean, that's a great fit for him as well. Um, it's just also unfortunate he can't get over there either. Um, because the Hawks, they're going to want a lot for Trae Young because you know what you have in him. But you just don't want to do the necessary things to build around him.
Yeah. Yes, it's a sad situation. Not only for the Hawks, but Trae Young is probably going to be on a bad team once again. He's definitely a superstar. So sucks to see it. Probably the last team we're going to go over, the hometown Wizards, y'all. Not only did they draft Alex Sarr, but they also signed Big Val. Now they still might trade Kyle Kuzma. They might try to trade Jordan Poole. They haven't re-signed Tyus Jones yet for whatever reason. They have Malcolm Brogdon from that one trade at draft night. Lawrence, how you feel about the Big Val signing, the Alex Sarr drafting, and just overall, how you feel about the Wizards offseason
Hey,
thus far?
I know you're into one, but I love me some Big Val. I think he's really effective, and I think he's underrated as heck. I think Big Val. I think in my opinion, I think it was a really dumb place to go for Big Val. I don't know why he would want to, because in my opinion, Big Val can go to any contender in the league, and he has a place
Yeah.
in a complete effective role that he can be utilized in. Um, and going to the Warriors, a team for all intents and purposes has no role.
Yeah.
I guess direction. So it just feels like it was a little bit of a waste for him to go here. Maybe he knows something about this team or likes something about this team, or they promised him something, or maybe Big Val just likes to play basketball and doesn't really care about anything else other than the team that's going to give him the most money. So who knows? But at the end of the day, I think that with Tyus Jones, the biggest thing you got to do is re-sign Tyus Jones.
Yeah.
Because him with I think didn't Valanciunas play with Tyus at one point? And I mean, they did really good together. I think won the Grizzlies, right?
Yeah, in Memphis, yeah.
So those two will have chemistry. I think the re-signing of not re-signing. I think keeping Kuzma is really important. But I think the biggest thing you have to do is accept an L, accept that you got played, and just do whatever you can to get rid of Poole. Whoever's got anything to offer, you take it. You just get it out of your locker room and put it in a piece that will actually try harder. Um, that's the only place I can think is you let Poole walk, or not walk, but get rid of Poole the best you can.
Gotta get rid of the pool party. Yeah, I agree. He needs to go. He kind of came on late last season, but that's after everyone was hurt, so they had to play him. So I don't really count that.
I mean, everyone's hurt, and I mean, no offense, but no one cared when they were playing the Warriors. Coming to the Warriors, they're like losers. Like we can let the Wizards score, we'll still just beat them because they can't play defense.
Yeah, so I mean, he's just not a good fit there. Maybe on the Pistons he'll be a better fit. Who knows? I like Big Val going to the Wizards. I think they're trying to avoid what happened to Wemby with Alex Sarr. Alex Sarr is another just tall, skinny, lanky French kid. He's going to need a big body next to him so he doesn't get beat up every single night. Although Wemby did get beat up every single night, it didn't result in him getting hurt. But this kid looks even skinnier than Wemby, so they're probably being a little cautious. Make sure this kid doesn't get hurt against the bigs like Embiid, Jokic, AD, all that sort. So I like the signing. Like you said, he could have gone anywhere. The Warriors, the Lakers, teams that actually in a contention. But for whatever reason, he came to DC. I'm all here for it. Like I said, Tyus Jones, they gotta maybe the money is off, but they gotta do their best to re-sign him because they really don't have a point guard. So it wouldn't make sense not to re-sign him. So I don't know what the holdup is. I say you probably got to trade Kuzma. I'm going to disagree with you. I think Kuzma has to go. I think he got an all-out tank this year. I think Kuzma got some confidence last season, so he's probably gonna win games that he probably shouldn't. This is the year you want to tank Cooper Flag. He's currently 17, and he's playing with the U.S. select team in Las Vegas. That kid's really good. You got to do whatever you can to get that kid. He will change lives here in DC. So I think you got to trade Kuz. Kuz probably win you five or 7 games by himself. So you got to get rid of him.
Not the koozie.
Yeah, you hate to see it, but he's got to go. That's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, free agency is still going on. Still got a couple dominoes: Ingram, marketing, Trae Young, Tyus Jones. These things will happen, in the weeks to come. Whenever they happen, we'll cover. Lawrence, anything you want to cover? We've been gone for about 2 weeks. Anything you want to go over in the time that we've been gone on vacation, all that good stuff? Alex Pereira, he won again. I know that fight was like a week and a half ago, but what a damn good fight.
I don't know
Money in the Bank happened on Saturday, so John Cena, he is retiring after the conclusion of, I think, this wrestling season, so he has 1 more year left. There's a lot of things we could touch on.
I mean, I don't really have much. I don't remember if I sent you my parlay that I had made for the UFC 303.
203, yeah.
But I cleaned up real good. I think the biggest thing to talk about is the Alex Pereira versus John Jones. Possibly in the future
man.
when John Jones is literally like, hey, like this is what everyone's saying is the GOAT. I am the GOAT. So how about me and him duke it out into who it really means? So I mean, I'm completely down for that one. I think it's fun. I think it'll be exciting. But
Yeah.
if it doesn't happen, I mean, I understand if you're Alex Pereira because that is, I mean, the man can literally climb up the ladder of weight classes. I mean, he's already 2 weight classes above what he started at. So
it would be scary. I wouldn't know if I would sign up for that necessarily, but if anyone can do it, it's definitely Alex, right?
yeah, it is Alex. It is Alex.
I got nothing else really. Like I said, John Cena is done in about 1 more year. So he has another SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania in him. It's sad to see one of the GOATs, retire officially. But you just gotta enjoy it while you can. Money in the Bank was on Saturday. I thought it was good, not great. Drew McIntyre cashing the Money in the Bank the same night he won it. The botched pin by Damian Priest, a lot of people giving him shit. Rightfully so. That was kind of a big fuck up. I was sitting there like, wait, didn't he just didn't what's his name win? Seth freaking Rollins, and then the music kind of cued in late, and you see Drew McIntyre like running down. I don't know. It was, as a viewer, it was a little weird. I didn't like that. The women were good though, and the last fight, the Bloodline and Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and Cody Rhodes. Like I said, a good fight, not great. there was some botch moments. That one new Bloodline dude, the Tonga, not I forgot the dude name, but he was playing the manager and he botched a low blow like twice. I'm like, bro, how do you fuck up a low blow? Like, come on, bro. But other than that, it was a good one. We gotta see how they gotta redeem themselves at SummerSlam. They definitely do. How do you feel about I don't even know if you watch Money in the Bank, but how do you feel about that?
I mean, I didn't watch
Solo
it in the Money
Sikoa
Bank,
is the new
but
tribal chief.
I'm extremely excited for WWE on Netflix. The way they describe how they're gonna go about it, I'm extremely down
Yeah.
for. Then they're gonna go back from the PG area that area we're in right now to straight up. We're gonna go back to the Attitude Era. I think
Yes,
that's
sir.
exactly what they need to do. Because honestly, I mean, it is what's needed. Because let's face it, younger kids aren't watching WWE as much anymore, and it's people getting older who are still watching it and
Yeah.
still into it. So in reality, who are you really? I mean, even if it is like attitude era and everything. I mean, what is really the worst things they can do besides cuss? Um, and beat people up. But like, I mean, little kids are seeing worse things on the internet still. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. The worst they can do is what? Cuss and say fuck and fuck you and stuff like that, and maybe they'll make some, I don't know, more sexual innuendos and stuff like that, kind of like they did back in the day. Stuff that was like lighthearted but funny. They won't be any more kind of like the little weird stuff that they did back in the day, like some of the, I guess, kind of racist when they did some of the Chinese jokes, some of the black jokes and stuff like that. But you probably won't see that stuff, but you'll see some of the other stuff that totally made the Attitude Era what it was. That was peak WWE right there. So if Triple H can find a way to bring most of that stuff back, I am 100% down for that. Other than that, that's all I gotta cover. MTL Sports Podcast, y'all, episode 103. We're gonna head on out, and we'll see you next episode. Peace.
peace out.